It's not a joke, but is it scary? Not too confident, but I did get called in by the police over this. So guess it's not a joke. Back when I was a student, I went on a trip with my club. Since most of us were broke students, we stayed at a cheap lodging a friend recommended. Right next to the lodging was an old shack-like building. Run down but oddly huge. Seeing it, one of the more spiritually sensitive girls in our group started shaking, saying, "The second floor is bad. It's watching us." She refused to stay there. That night after dinner and fireworks, boredom set in, and we got the idea to check out the big building next door. 2 of the girls objected, so it was 5 guys and 2 girls who went. Up close, the atmosphere was pretty creepy. On the first floor was a huge door. Opening it, inside was a storehouse with farming tools and such. From the ceiling came a rumbling noise like something moving. Then those outside yelled, "The light came on, the light!" Going back out, a window on the upper floor was lit. "This is bad. We'll get in trouble." As we discussed it, a face suddenly appeared in the window. Backlit, the features were hidden in shadow. I was pretty freaked out. But the owner of the face beckoned us up, saying in a surprisingly young voice, "Hey, don't stand around there, come on up." The invitation and offer of drinks convinced us to go up after all. On the first floor wall was a staircase leading up. Dark at first, but halfway brighter light shone down. The open door led into a single large room, with some 30 men sitting on the far side of a table. On the table were food and beers. The room had an Indian vibe, decorated with wood carvings, instruments, vivid posters of gods and movies. Despite its huge size, lighting was dim and barely reached the corners. "Simon, have a beer and eat up," he offered, and we drank with the men. We chatted about the guy's travels in India, recent music, etc. When one girl asked about the blaring music, the guy said it was fine, but turned it up louder. Noticing how late it had gotten, we decided to head back. The man escorted us to the warehouse entrance. The next morning at breakfast, the owner of the lodging asked, "You all went to that building last night?" When I said yes, she pressed, "Nothing strange happened." In the car ride back, I asked the remaining girl if the noise had bothered her. She said, "It wasn't that loud, but when I heard music coming from there, I wondered what was going on and looked out the window. A small light on the lower floor blinked on, then off again. Next, I heard the warehouse door open. Hearing that, one of the guys, muttered, 'No way,' and began recounting. On the stairs from the warehouse, there was a landing right, barely noticeable in the dark. But there was a door in the wall. At the time I just thought, but didn't think much of it. But on the way back, that door was open just a crack. Thought maybe I imagined it, but wait, so the floor we were drinking on was the 3rd floor?" I asked, taken aback. Remembering it now, so many things seemed off. When we first entered the 1st floor, the upper windows were pitch black. And that floor should have been one big room. So what was that guy doing in the dark before we came? The amount of food was too much for one person, yet served hot. Was he waiting for someone else to arrive? Did he turn off the lights? Expecting who? Talking it over in the car, an uneasy feeling came over us. Saying, "Gives me the creeps. Leave a bad aftertaste." We headed home. Arriving, the girl who went home first was missing. Asking her apartment mates, seems she had returned that night, but at some point disappeared without a trace. Her room wasn't ransacked or tidied up, just looked normally vacant. I heard she still hasn't been found. Additional developments. I called one of the members from back then not expecting anything really, just feeling like closure. Surprisingly, I had some info that shocked me. Wish I had contacted him sooner. Here's his story. As account. At a work function, I met the guy B who recommended that lodge. We discussed that huge building. Turns out it was a local communal warehouse and meeting hall. After a new meeting hall was built, it fell into disuse until an outsider bought the whole property. At some point that guy started living there. No one knew what he was up to. When I asked how he knew all this, B said the owner lady at the lodge had told him when he stayed. She spoke lightly about it, but warned not to go near there. Seems the guy was having some feud with locals. Even so, at dusk B and friends went to the building. Inside the warehouse B saw fish hanging from the ceiling. Smelled awful. Then loud crashes came from above, so they panicked and fled outside. That night they could hear arguing voices coming from the building. That's the end of B's account. One more thing, the missing girl was found. She knows the details, so better to hear it direct. End as account. The next day I called C. Being from the same rural area, she was closest to us in our group back then. She's account. About a year after S went missing, I got a call from her mother wanting to talk about that day. We met at a local shop and she told me. Turns out S was found a month after vanishing, near her parents' home. But she had mental issues, so they kept it secret and maintained she was still missing. Even at school and with friends. I was also asked to stay silent. Why she disappeared, where she was those days, she wouldn't answer any questions. Even from family or doctors. The only thing she muttered was the name, Hisayuki, once. Police were checked with all involved if we knew anyone by that name. But no such person existed. She still goes to the hospital, but seems much improved. Haven't met her, but got a call from her mom saying I could share the story now. Apparently still won't discuss or recall anything about that day. Don't remember police asking me about a Hisayuki either. And his account. It was good, was oak, but something still doesn't sit right. Us info didn't fully connect either. Well, consider it an aftermath report.